Nick, Wild Web, Heavyweight, 11-0, 9 knockouts. Subscribe to Sporting Icon for your latest boxing news. Come!
Thank you, Cinderman, for this article. So Sky Sports are reporting that the WBA have ordered Anthony Joshua to negotiate with Alexander Povetkin within the next 30 days and ultimately have to have a fight within the next 150 days, so 5 months. And it was Povetkin's Russian promoter who posted this on Twitter. Povetkin is now a mandatory contender for Anthony Joshua. He was appointed by the WBA. Now there are 150 days to arrange the fight. It must take place. Before the fight with Sasha, Joshua has no right to fight with anyone else. We have 30 days to negotiate. So, I mean, you can kind of make of that as you want. Of course, the Wilder fans are going to spin that as if Eddie Hearn has forced this situation miraculously, right? As if Eddie Hearn controls the sanctioning bodies, and because Anthony Joshua is a cash cow and everything that they can to avoid Wilder. I mean, first of all, wind your neck in, don't be so stupid. Now, Povetkin has earned the right to become a mandatory. He's beaten Christian Hammer, he's beaten multiple contenders, and of course he had a tune-up, if you like, or a step-in fight against David Price on the Joshua Parker undercard. Now, of course, maybe if Joshua and Wilder can negotiate properly, then maybe the WBA will allow the unification to take precedence, because they don't have to. I mean, that whole thing is just a rumour where if two champions want to fight, then the sanctioning bodies have no choice but to allow it. That's not true at all. It really isn't. It's every single one of them is down to the discretion, but they usually say yes. I mean, it's very, very rare you hear them say no. The only times that really happens is with the WBO, when Joseph Parker beat Andy Ruiz for the WBO title, and they said there will be no unification, no nothing, you will face your mandatory next, which at the time was David Haye, but ultimately turned out to be Hughie Fury in the end. And of course with the IBF situation as well, they said after Vladimir Klitschko, you will not unify, you will not do anything, you will face our mandatory, who's been waiting for a long, long time, which at the time was Pulev, again then turned out to be Carlos Takam, right? And the WBA, they've been waiting for a long, long time now for their WBA mandatory to be fulfilled. They want that done. Obviously, originally it was Luis Ortiz who was the mandatory, and Vladimir Klitschko, who had a rematch for Tyson Fury to try and get that belt back. I agree, the rematch clause shouldn't have been there anyway, because Tyson Fury was in fact a mandatory, right? So either way, the rematch was signed. Vladimir Klitschko was allowed to have a rematch, or at least vie for that belt again. The WBA allowed it to be a unification. In other words, Luis Ortiz, you have to wait, mate. But then, since all that kind of stuff, they have suspended Luis Ortiz for that PED fail from VADA when he was originally supposed to fight Deontay Wilder. But yet, the WBC allowed Luis Ortiz back in and fight for or against Deontay Wilder, but the WBA still suspended him. That bit sucks. Do not agree with that one bit. Now, either way, they want their WBA mandatory fulfilled, and of course a lot of us were expecting that to be happening maybe early next year. We didn't expect it right now, but it comes as no surprise really. But as I said, you know, a lot of the Wilder fangirls are going to be using this as a Joshua, Eddie Hearn doing everything they can to avoid Wilder. You know how they run with it, and you know what's going to happen. It's complete rhetoric of complete crap is what it is. Again, I mean, if Eddie Hearn was that all-powerful, then surely Povetkin's team are even more powerful, as they have a lot more money, right? So anyway, that is what it is. So he had 30 days to negotiate a fight. In other words, the splits, where it's going to be, all this kind of stuff, could end up going to a purse bid, all this kind of stuff. But either way, the fight must take place within the next 150 days. So 5 months, it has to take place. Where it will be, I mean, if it goes to purse bids, and if Team Povetkin are serious about having it in Russia, I cannot see Eddie Hearn outbidding them. So Joshua may end up having to go to Russia. If, of course, this fight happens next, if Wilder and Team Joshua don't negotiate, and if the WBA say no, you're not unifying, you are going to be fighting your mandatory. So as I said, you know that Team Wilder are going to be trying to spin this as if Eddie Hearn and Joshua had something to do with it. Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. But anyway, if this fight does happen, at least Joshua will be taking on somebody that Deontay Wilder was more than happy to avoid when he was forced to fight Povetkin over in Russia, because his team lost a purse bid, and ultimately Povetkin failed the test, right? And before the B sample was even done, before it was even public knowledge, before a statement was released, Deontay Wilder seemed to be the very first person to know about it, and was on the plane from Sheffield, UK, where he was supposed to go from there to Russia, but he flew from Sheffield, UK back to Alabama. So of course these guys have been having some kind of court case and everything since. I don't know what quite happened with that. I'm believing that Deontay Wilder won the case, right? But anyway, it's not really that important. So it's an interesting situation. It's a mandatory. Mandatories have to be fulfilled. Just like I said with Wilder and Stiverne, just get the damn thing out of the way. But if there's a good chance of making Joshua versus Wilder, you know, they should at least try and pursue that one. But what this definitely does do, though, it's now confirms that Joshua will face either Wilder or Povetkin. So any talk of Jarrell Miller or anybody else is now shelved. That cannot happen. Of course, Eddie Hearn really wanted Joshua to face Miller over in New York, and now that is impossible. It cannot happen. Cannot happen. And Povetkin cannot be paid step aside. He cannot be done anything because the WBA won't allow it. If Povetkin says, okay, I'll step aside, WBA say, no, you're not. You're the mandatory. You will either face Joshua or relinquish your mandatory position, and we will promote the next person in line to it. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. So Anthony Joshua's team have 30 days to negotiate a fight to fight next against Alexander Povetkin, and the fight must take place within the next 150 days. Drop your thoughts below, click that thumbs up, subscribe, catch you next video.